This is Living Your Authentic Life. I am Emma.
And I'm Aidan.
How are you today, Aidan?
Honestly, I feel really good. I was in the Blue Mountains yesterday for work, but then I stuck around for a little bit longer, extended my stay, and just having fresh air and being out of the city for any amount of time. It's just reinvigorating. So it felt really good to kind of get that opportunity, and it was quite an organic opportunity as well to have the afternoon after doing some work to just not have to go straight home and not have to dive right back into work. So it was quite a pleasant surprise.
That's good. Yeah, the Blue Mountain is so beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Went on a retreat there at the end of last year, which was
there's
very
really
refreshing.
There's nothing like kind of being out in the mountains, I feel like. Of course, I'm saying that as somebody who is from the mountains and who yearns for the mountains. But it's quite a refreshing experience, I find.
Nice. Very nice.
What about you?
I am less than fabulous today.
Oh gosh.
It's been a bit of a rough week. We found out we have to move, which which actually I took incredibly well. And I'm genuinely really excited about the move, but for me it's really brought something up of when I can't plan, the Virgo in me wants to plan and organize everything, and we have not yet secured our next rental property, and so that drives me insane.
Yeah.
And it has then just had this cascading effect of me not looking after myself or my pets, not really taking care of their needs or my needs, probably not my partner's needs either. And and I've been conscious of it. I know that I'm doing it, but I've just been obsessively checking the real estate apps over and over and over, and then compromising what it is that I want, which is silly because we've got months. We literally don't have to move out until June, so we have so much time to deal with this. But because I get this obsessive behavior, I want it organized as soon as possible, and I want to know, okay, what furniture are we taking, what are we not taking, what are we going to have space for, and I guess I'm a step up than what I would usually be, where I am at least aware that I'm doing this and that it's incredibly unhealthy and that it's impacting me in a negative way. I have not been cooking. I've been eating junk food every freaking day. I've been dehydrated every day. Yeah. And literally yesterday or the day before, I took the dogs out for the first time in a week. I didn't walk my dogs for an entire week, which is really, really awful. It makes me feel like a terrible parent.
Well, it's also very uncharacteristic because that's usually kind of front of mind for you, is taking care of the dogs.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're well cared for. But having a house for them is taking care of them, and it definitely is important to be planning these things. And so there's value in what you are doing, right? Of putting in that effort. Yes, it is a lot, and it probably is quite stressful and frustrating, but it's better that than getting to June and being well,
better find somewhere. Yeah. No, it's look, on one hand, I'm being very positive about the situation, and well, I think I was, I manifested what I wanted, and I had full faith that I was going to get it. And then because of this, obsessive mindset that came in, I kind of drifted away from that. And you start compromising, because I'd been going over and over the same properties, which previously I'd be nah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then because I'm obsessing over just finding somewhere, I'll go back to these places and be well, maybe
we can make this work.
Which is the complete opposite of how manifestation works. But I think on top of that, really got me thinking about, you know, the fact that we still don't have permanent residency in Australia, and it's this instability that I literally just realized this while I was driving home to come here, that I haven't had financial or home stability in 10 years. In the 10 years that I've been here, I think I had one full-time job that had a salary when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I think I had that I was in that role for about 7 months before I left. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I love my work. I love the freedom and the flexibility and everything. And I've worked so hard to build what I have. But I'm just now realizing that, yeah, you know, I haven't had a stable home life or a stable financial life for that period of time, which is pretty much like my entire adult life, right? And I think I'm just realizing that that's actually affecting me in some ways, because I feel like I can't. No, I want to change the way that I'm saying that. I know I can, but I can get into these mindsets of, you know, like, not having PR is preventing me from building my business the way that I want. It's preventing us from being able to invest our money or like buy a property, because we're spending so much money on visas and, you know, and just not having that assurity that we can actually stay in the country. And so what started off as, oh, we have to move, great. You know, now I can go and like maybe live closer to the beach. That's amazing. Has now spiraled me down to, I have no stability in my life.
Does this happen every time you move? Because I remember when you got this place, you felt like it was really a compromise.
Yeah.
Like this place was not anything that you kind of wanted. The kitchen was nice.
Yes, I love our kitchen, and we got a huge backyard for the dogs. So those were the two massive ticks. But we'd come from a rental property that I was in love with, and we had to move out because the landlord wanted to move in. You know, like, I would still be there today. So yeah, like, every time we had moved, so me and my partner have been living together for coming up to 6 years, and this will be our 5th move in that time.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. It's a lot to keep rebuilding your home. But every time we moved, we always got somewhere better until we had to move into this place. Now, this house is beautiful in its own right. It has its pros and its cons, and I really did learn to embrace it. So I could have stayed here too, but then the landlord wanted to increase the rent to, you know, an amount that we can't afford. So I think maybe we had such an awful time last year with the move itself. Went terribly. It was just the most ridiculous.
I remember.
We started at 7 a.m. and we didn't finish until 2:30 in the morning because we had to do everything in one day. And I know that's not going to happen this time, right? But I think subconsciously, like, I'm probably still a little bit emotionally scarred, and now I'm just like, I have to do everything I can to prevent not having a property that we're in, you know, that we're not in love with. Like, I want to be in love with the property that we find.
But that would also be feeding into this desire, the already existent need for having it all planned out, starting a month and a half in advance.
So
to get it all together, 2 months in advance, just to make sure that you definitely have a property and you're not going to be in the same situation where you have one day to move.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's understandable.
Yeah. And I think also, like, you know, was it Monday? Monday was day 1 of my cycle. So I was like, which totally snuck up on me because the entire week beforehand, I was so focused on the fact that, okay, yeah, we got to move, got to start looking. Yeah. And so I was pretty good last week, but this week has been tough because my mood has dropped, my energy levels dropped, my body felt heavy, and so it kind of, I catastrophized everything. And then I think felt a bit bad and a bit shitty about myself because I was like, no, like, I started off so good You know, I was dealing with this situation so good. Like, how did I get here? How did I get to, you know, from being super excited and genuinely like really happy to being exhausted, not getting enough sunlight, not drinking enough water, eating junk food, not walking my dogs, and just feeling like a complete failure all around.
Well, that's very easy because of the hormones.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because of where you are in your cycle. And it can be really rough to go from quite a high place hormonally and this place of like having all of that energy to like one day waking up and being like, I don't have the energy for anything. I hardly have the energy for getting out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, that's super interesting because I feel like, I don't know, particularly since I got like deeply into my spiritual journey and I started healing in so many ways, and I started experiencing these amazing highs of just being so grateful and in love with life, and for a period of time my lows hit back so much harder than I'd felt them in years. And now that I'm also learning about the cycle stuff, I'm wondering how much of that had an impact on, was I experiencing these really high highs during my, you know, my spring and summer phases, and then were my autumn and winter phases just totally, yeah. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, so there's this concept that through our hormonal cycle, we go through seasons. So, you know, we have our day one is day one of your period. So this is the first week is your winter. And that's when we're at our lowest energetically, lowest estrogen, lowest progesterone. We need more calories. We need more sleep. And then we go into spring. We start, you know, emerging and
a little bit fresher.
Feeling a little bit fresher. It's a good time to start thinking of, you know, things that you want to plan, like things that you want to manifest, put into action, but
and accomplish in the kind of rest of the cycle, right?
Yeah, and that's very much the planning phase. It's a good time to plan, but not necessarily be actioning things, but that is for your summer. Your summer is your time to like take action, manifest, like all of, you know, your energy's high, you're in your peak femininity, your sexuality, like everything just feels good and delicious. And then comes autumn to prepare you for winter again. So since learning about this, it's been really helpful for me to understand my body more and my cycle, and being like, oh, okay, this is why I feel so crappy today, or this is why I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Yeah. And that's for female bodies, but male bodies also have a hormonal cycle. It's just that it runs on a 24-hour.
Yes.
Right? So instead of 28 days like a female, an average of 28 days like a female body, a male body's hormones have a cycle that lasts just a day, and it kind of recycles through. And so that's why they'll have peaks in like the mornings or the afternoons, and then or mornings and kind of middays, and slumps in the afternoons and evenings, which is interesting because that's also how society is built, and that's also why you still have the expectation to show up for work even though you were quite lowly slumped, and go through your day and make sure that you had this daily cycle set up for you, and going to all of these viewings, and I call them viewings, inspections.
Yeah, house inspections, which were at the other end of Sydney, so there was just so much driving involved as well. And I mean, like, I made those choices to do that. Even though we were 2 months out of needing to move, you know, so that's on me. And I said to myself, by the time it got to Wednesday, I was like, all right, I have to stop because I'm driving myself insane. I can see what I'm doing to myself. And I know, you know, okay, yes, I'm in my winter, I'm on my period. This is the worst time for me to be trying to create anything. Literally, like literally just the worst time.
Yeah.
So I had to say to myself, like, okay, no more for the rest of this week. So I managed not to go to any house viewings. I have been on the app less.
Good.
I will admit, like I was still checking the app, but probably like a couple of times a day as opposed to like a couple of times an hour.
Yeah.
Like I must have checked it 100 times on, Monday.
Yeah.
Which is just so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, Mondays are the day when most new properties are put on. So if there's a time for you to be checking, it's probably Monday, but even still, it is a bit excessive.
Yeah. Yeah. Like every, 10 minutes, I'd be like, oh, even though I know no changes are going to have happened in that time. But yeah. So anyway, my point was, because something I heard recently, this has really resonated with me with the last week. It's been coming up a lot, also in stories that other people have told me. And I've kind of gone, hey, listen to this because this might really make sense to you with what you're going through right now. Is that when we start to change our habits and our thought patterns for the better.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind, as you do that, your negative habits or, the things that you don't want to do anymore are now shrinking and getting weaker. So apparently, because they want to survive, they fight back twice as hard. And that kind of made me go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That really just illuminated so many things for me. Because one, I realized that when you have those moments of, you're doing so well, like better than you've ever done before, and then you crash and burn and you're like, fuck, I was doing so well, like, and maybe then you feel like a failure, but actually it's a sign that you're not. It's a sign that you're doing so well that these old systems are trying to grab at anything that they can to survive. And that flip in mindset for me was like, whoa, that's a really big change, because now I don't have to feel awful when that happens. It's almost like a reminder that, hey, like, you're doing so well, keep going. Okay, you fell off the horse, that's part of the process. Keep going. And they'll get smaller and smaller until, they don't bite back anymore.
And how have you been since Wednesday?
Better. Yeah. So Wednesday I took the dogs for a walk.
Okay.
And I took the dogs for a walk again today. And actually, when I have too much screen time and I don't get outside enough, when I will go outside, I'll get headachy and I get pain behind my eyes. And actually it's a struggle. Like I don't come back from those walks and think, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
I come back and I think I'm really glad that I did it, but that was tough. And it's also a signal to me that I've gone too far. I've gone too far.
It's been too long.
It's been too long. And it's been a long time since I've actually experienced that. Quite a long time. So that was kind of a good thing for me today, because I was like, okay, I'm acknowledging and I'm owning what I'm doing and taking the steps I know I need to take to change this, to stop going over and over.
Yeah. And it doesn't help as well that the weather's been a bit temperamental here.
I know, I definitely get a little bit moody when the weather's moody.
Yeah, Nick and I spent the entire day on the couch. We went for a lovely walk this morning to get breakfast, and it rained on us on our way home. So we kind of just, for the rest of the day, we were like, cool, we don't have to do anything. We did our time in the rain, literally.
Which is nice, like, I think when the weather's like this, but I've been in a much better mental state.
Yeah.
I'm very much like, yes, I get to just sit at home and curl up with my blanket. Yeah,
Cup of coffee.
If I've not been looking after my mental health or my physical health, then when this happens, it's almost like, fuck, the world sucks. The world sucks. Everything is terrible.
Nothing has ever been okay.
Yeah. It's so funny how we can spiral. Yeah. This is just I think it's our inner child nature that comes out in these situations where, like, you just want to feel like everything is okay. And when it's not, it's like, oh, fuck, the world sucks. Everything is terrible. Yeah. It's so funny how we can spiral. Yeah. This is just our I think it's our inner child nature that comes out in these situations where, like, you just want to feel like everything is okay. And when it's not, it's like, oh, fuck, the world sucks. Everything is terrible. Yeah. you're looking around to be like, what did I do? What can I do? You know,
Yeah.
how do I stop? How do I get off this ride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that it's also a sign to our bodies, from our bodies, I guess, that we need to be taking rests pretty regularly, even when we are in those high places, when we are feeling super energetic and able to do stuff.
Yeah.
It can be hard to actually like slow down and remind ourselves in those times to like take a break and take it easy and
because you
find time for rest, even if you're like, I don't need rest.
Yeah, because you want to like make the most of your productivity,
Yeah.
but then you can end up burning yourself out because you just go too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very much one of those things where that's when it really comes into practice, right? It's like on both sides, like if you're feeling super productive and you're doing a heap of stuff and in the back of your mind you're like, you know, no, I still need to eat. I still need to go to bed, you know, okay, you stayed up till 2 a.m. on your laptop, you know, doing business stuff last night. We're not going to do that again. Like, let's be sensible. And on the other side, when you're feeling terrible and you're slogging through things that really, like, do you need to be doing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like housework is something that I've been obsessed over for years, you know. I'm a bit of a clean freak. But I've actually been practicing since we moved into this house to let it go a bit. Like, leave the dishes. You know, if you come home and you're exhausted and you just about have the energy to cook yourself dinner, leave the dishes. Do them tomorrow. You know, leave the vacuuming. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. No one can see my kitchen. Literally, no one comes to my... Clients come to my house, but they don't see that part of my house. But I would clean that just in case they happened to
what
see...
if they want a cup of tea and, like, the conversation's going really nicely, or there's some...
Yeah, for some... What if I have to run and get the first aid kit because they've cut themselves and they follow me through? You know, you'd have these just stupid thoughts. And I realise that as much as I do love and very much appreciate having a clean and tidy space and get therapeutic healing as well from cleaning, you know, if I'm stressed or if I've got a lot on my mind, I'll admit it. It took me a long time to admit it, but I'll admit it. I like cleaning, right? But to an extent, because I would think sometimes I used it as a crutch where I would waste time cleaning to avoid doing things that I think I actually needed to do, or just because it gave me something to hyper focus on. Yeah. So I've been like intentionally trying to let that go with the cleaning and just let things get a little bit dirtier for a little bit longer and like learn to be okay with that. Yeah.
That's interesting. I can imagine that's quite a tricky one for you as well, just from knowing you. I think I'm obviously not like that. I'm like,
really?
I will let things go and think, meh, tomorrow.
Let him go, let him go, let him go.
I joked with my youth kids once that, like, I'll tell little lies of, like, yes, I'll definitely put all of my laundry, I'll fold the laundry tonight, and then find excuses not to do it. And one of the kids the next week called me out and was like, Aidan, did you fold your laundry? And I hadn't.
I love kids. I love it when they do that.
I did not think they were paying attention when I said that. And for one of them to just like point blank be like, did you do it? And me to be like, no, I did not.
At least you told the truth.
Yeah.
You could have been like, yeah, I did.
As soon as I got home.
Always fold your laundry, kids.
No, but to kind of come to a place of grappling that you must have been grappling with, to realize that it's okay to let things go a little bit and to not be so on the ball that you're grinding yourself down to nothing in order to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which honestly, like on weeks like this has genuinely helped, because I needed rest. And I still cleaned, of course. Of course, I cleaned. I can't not clean. I've got 2 high shedding dogs.
Yeah.
But like I'm able to put that stuff aside now when it's really not important, and when it's more important for me to be doing other things, or not doing anything. You know, like giving myself more rest.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, lo and behold, when you don't follow the things that are good for you, do you know what it feels like? I saw this post on Facebook years ago, and I think of it just lives rent-free in my brain, where like you have a whole load of laundry in your hands, and you drop a sock, and you reach down to pick up the sock, and then you drop a pair of pants, and you reach down to pick up the pants, and then it's just like this cascade, and like just all the laundry falls on the floor. That's what it's like when you drop the ball on the important stuff, and I mean the important self-care stuff. You know, so for me, this last couple of weeks, that was like dropping into this obsessive behavior that I was very aware that I needed to overcome. That then started this, you know, domino effect of like eating crappy food, staying up too late, not drinking enough water, like just putting this one thing above all else, and it then lands you in this place where you're like, oh fuck, like I dropped everything, you know, I dropped all the laundry.
Yeah. But alternatively, if you're dropping things that aren't important, and it's like you didn't vacuum today, and that's the sock, if you don't bend down to do that, if you don't reach out to like vacuum, and you keep holding on to the other important things like the pants that are like walking your dogs, or the maybe the long bath that you need to take, or the meditation that you've been putting off.
You are so smart.
If you're not picking up the thing that dropped, the unimportant thing, you'll have energy and you won't lose that other thing.
Don't pick it up. Go and take your laundry to where it needs to go, and then go back and get the sock.
Yeah.
Mind blown. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you're prioritizing things that aren't the important things, one of the other ways that this has been demonstrated in like sociology classes is like you have a jar, right? And beside the jar you've got golf balls. And beside the golf balls you've got pebbles, and besides the pebbles you've got sand. If you're putting the sand in first, you're maybe filling it up to 3/4 halfway, and then you can put the rocks in, and then that's filling it up quite a ways, and then maybe you only have room for 1 or 2 golf balls. But if you put the golf balls in first, then you can fill in the gaps between the golf balls with the pebbles, and then you can put the sand in on top and fill in the gaps with the sand. So if you're prioritizing the golf balls, the self-care things, the things that are going to help you kind of actually be able to do some of those more tedious jobs.
Yeah, keep yourself functioning.
Yeah. You'll be able to fill in the gaps, and you'll have the energy to do all of that other stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's not my idea. That is from some sociology professor, and I saw it on Facebook years ago. So, same thing, rent-free.
Yeah. But isn't it
can't claim that as an original thought. Yeah. I don't have a lot of original thoughts. My brain's full of ideas that I take from other people.
Oh my god. Yeah, see, this, I'm immediately feeling better. Like, literally just having this conversation, I just feel lighter in my chest, and in my head feels a bit less.
So what are your golf balls?
What are my golf balls? Meditation.
Yeah.
Positive affirmations. Hydration, diet, exercise. That's it. It's that simple. It really is. And like, honestly, like, I can attest to any time that I've been in these kinds of states where you can go, oh, okay, yeah, but you've got this life event going on, but every single time I've dropped those golf balls. So you kind of go, is it a coincidence, or is maybe this playing a role? Because I know that whenever I start doing those things again, my outlook gets more positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like meditation in particular, like I haven't dropped that ball completely, and that's probably the one thing that kept me going, especially because my dreams over the last 2 weeks, maybe a bit longer, maybe three or 4 weeks, have been wildly vivid. And I've been having these really interesting realizations of like learning lessons from my dreams. And it's so weird. It's really fun and enjoyable, but like I wake up in the morning, and before that dream, you know, because will often forget most of the elements of the dream.
Yeah.
But pretty much first thing in the morning, just as I'm rousing, it's still all pretty fresh in my head.
Yeah.
And I just quickly go like, I got better and better as the days went on, to getting to the point now where I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I know what that lesson was. And
yeah,
I'm
wow.
like, so I feel like I'm like leveling up even in my sleep, which is super cool. It's so cool. And I'd love to, talk more about that. I know we want to do an episode on dreams.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think we've got so much to talk about with that. Yeah. So I've still been meditating like before bed, and I think that sets me up for these dreams that I'm having. But because I've been so tired, my meditations have been like a few minutes, as opposed to, you know, I could easily do like 45 to an hour on a nightly basis. So yeah, like I think just those little bits that I was getting were keeping me going. But I realized I have not been doing my positive affirmations at all. Not even a little bit. And I was like, crap, I really need those. Forgot I wasn't doing them. No wonder my life has gone to shit.
What are positive thoughts?
Yeah. What are your golf balls?
My golf balls are... I shouldn't have asked this question. Now I feel I'm put on the spot. Yikes. My golf balls, I think, are hygiene and healthy food, because I very quickly, like you, if I'm not feeling well, convenience meals.
Yeah.
Take out so quickly. Fresh air, which was a huge reminder to me with this trip out to the Blue Mountains. Like, I don't feel like I've been getting much fresh air. Like, we live in a nice neighborhood. It's still like smack dab in the middle of the city. And I am enjoying having a backyard in a place that's mostly fresh air, but like, you still get city smells, and I still feel that sense of like, I'll just close all of the windows and stay inside today. We used to live on Epping Road, right? So a massive main road, and our windows were all facing the highway. We spent 2 years without really ever opening the windows. Yeah. And occasionally I'd have this feeling of like, when it rained, I would be like, cool, I can open the windows because there's the fresh rain air. And I'd open all of the windows then. But of course, it's raining. So maybe 2 of the windows are facing the direction that the rain's coming in, so I can't open those ones. Yeah.
So would you, like, now that you've moved into a bit more of the burbs, can you, like, do you feel like the air is fresh enough? Or do you think you're more like hyper? Because I guess coming from the mountains, like, you'd be used to some fresh ass air. So
yeah.
Do you think you're more sensitive to it?
I don't know. Every time that I go back to the Blue Mountains, every time that I'm out and kind of away from the city, even at like the beach, when it's quite far from kind of city-esque vibes, I feel so much different returning home. I definitely get used to the city smells, and I think I adjust to being in that environment. But every time that I go into the city for work, like, I'll hop off the bus and immediately just be like my everything about it. I don't like the smell of a city. I don't like San Francisco because it smells like a city to me. almost everywhere in the city. And Sydney, in the heart of Sydney, it's the same. It smells like a city, and I don't like it at all.
I definitely get that, like, in the CBD.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just kind of smells like petrol everywhere. And there's something about that much concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Chatswood's the same, though. And Lane Cove
Yeah.
is really starting to smell that way, too.
Okay.
And I think that Epping Road has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, probably.
With kind of all of the...
It's such a major road. There's
fuel.
so much traffic that goes through there.
Yeah.
But then, like...
Carbon emissions.
I have Victoria Road just up here, right? And I wouldn't say until I kind of start walking up towards that road that I get... Because that generally... I'll go down in the opposite direction to walk the dogs. Like, I never want to go... if I have to, like, I'll cross over to get to the other side to explore some new walks. But, yeah, and in West Pymble, it was the same thing. You know, we had Lane Cove Road just at the top there, and we were at the bottom of a cul-de-sac, and it never occurred to me that I could smell those smells.
I feel like your old place was a lot better for it. There
was
so
so
much
leafy,
green. Yeah,
yeah.
there was so much greenery, and I think that that's part of what makes a huge difference rather, is just the amount of plant life that you have. We've got quite a bit of greenery in our backyard and our back garden at the moment.
You do.
Which I think helps a bit. And the rain makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah.
I'll always go outside and sit in the rain. Not in the rain. I don't like to do that, but I'll sit on my back porch.
Covered from the rain, watching the rain.
By the rain.
But it makes you think, doesn't it, about people who don't live in areas where they really have much greenery around them, and particularly in built up areas where there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of pollution, noise and actual, pollution. How much of a what's the word?
Much of an impact?
How much of a, I don't know what I'm trying to say, I'm having a brain fart, but yeah, like how much of a negative impact that could have on them, and prevent, because I do truly believe that all of this stuff, like, the quality of the water in Sydney is terrible.
Yeah.
Living in a city and having pollution, the blue light from screens and the lights that we have in buildings, and there's all this stuff about chemtrails and stuff that they're potentially dropping chemicals through the sky, which I'm kind of actually starting to believe in now that I've read more about it. But I do truly believe all of this stuff harms us.
Yeah. And
on top of that, we've got systems in like social media and marketing that are literally made so as addictive as possible for humans, and like sugar and everything that's put in our food is made so addictive as possible that I think we're really fighting an uphill battle here. Which yes, okay, you can look at all of that stuff and be fearful and be like, and feel helpless and be like, oh well, it's not our fault because the world is against us, kind of thing. But I also truly believe that being aware of it is enough, along with building your own internal resilience and building your own kind of energetic field around yourself. And I do truly think that can raise your vibration and your frequency and protect you from these things.
And as well doing what you can to bring in some of that greenery in life. Like, sure, okay, if you're in an apartment building, can you have like a couple of herb plants that you put on the window?
Yeah.
Can you get a few pot plants? Also, I'm saying this as somebody who has killed every single plant that I have ever brought into my apartment. So I don't actually know that this is great advice for those of you who are like me, but if you can, like, I don't know, escape to like somewhere that is greener, a place that maybe there's nice parks in the area and you can go to a park.
Yeah, or going hiking, which is obviously a lot more effort. You might have to drive a while to get to somewhere you can hike, and hikes generally go for a little bit longer. but they are, I know that it's hard and I know that it's challenging, but yeah, I do believe that when the odds are stacked against you, you have to take accountability and like step into the role of, okay, well, I'm going to do what I can for myself to feed myself all the good stuff and protect myself from the bad stuff. So yeah, there's that level again, you know, we're talking about accountability, which is very much challenging for a lot of people. I think a lot of people would rather just not have to face up to the fact. They'd rather just stay in victim mentality of like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. The government does this, you know, food costs this much, like whatever it is, to hide behind that and go, well, you know, you can't expect me to do more than I'm already doing. Which is true. No one can expect you to do that, but just being aware of like, that's a choice.
Yeah.
That is a choice. And every choice is hard, right? Like, it's hard to exercise and eat well, but it's really hard to be overweight. It's hard to make yourself get up and go and be out in the sunlight and, you know, take those breaks from sitting at your desk every hour to just move your body a little bit. It's hard to implement those strategies, but it's also hard to be in pain and weak and full of, you know, injuries and ailments because your body's deteriorating because you're letting it.
Yeah, because you're not doing anything to help it.
Yeah. So that's my little rant for today. Please know it's with love.
Yeah, I think we're always going to be our biggest barriers to a better life.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's always going to be the case that the person who's holding us back is ourselves.
Yes. And that's what I love, you know, one wonderful thing about social media now, because there's so many not wonderful things about social media, and it does get a really bad rap, but let's say there's also some really fantastic people out there using their platforms to share wonderful information and like ways to grow your own vegetables and how to journal and you know, oh, you want to learn how to crochet, me too, you know. So I think it's really lovely that we have access to that, and I think we have to remember that we have access to that.
I was just about to say as well that we should also point out the fact that we are quite privileged because we do have a roof over our heads, we do have income, we do have access to drinking water. Maybe it's Sydney water and it's not the cleanest, but it's still safe enough that we can drink it, and a lot of people aren't in that position, and a lot of people's governments aren't geared towards helping them.
Yes.
So there's definitely a level of
gratitude
that
should be there. Yeah, just having what you have, because it's so easy to be grateful for something. To not think about being grateful for something until you don't have it anymore, right? And you're always, like, if you lost a limb tomorrow, you'd be like, fuck, I was never grateful enough for my hand, you know? And there's just so many examples of that. I saw this really beautiful post on Instagram that got me a little bit teary, but some, you know, guy just posted a video of him, you know, walking in the woods or whatever, and he was like, I like to wake up every day and pretend that I died and that I asked God to send me back
for one more day.
No, not for one more day, just like to send me back so that I could like start over again. So you're like living every day as if you've already lost everything, you lost your life, and then essentially starting every single day with that mentality of like, I got a second chance, and now I've got the chance to like smell the flowers. Now I get to like use my legs and walk, and I get to hug people, and I get to experience relationships, and I get to cry, and I get to, you know, just everything that being human is. That we, you know, like myself this week, I've got so wrapped up in just my own life and like, oh, you know, poor me, I've got to move again. and I don't have stability. Like, yeah, okay, those things are valid, but also literally just being able to come home to a partner that I'm so deeply in love with and two beautiful little dogs, like that in its own is just like, oh my God, I'm so fucking lucky.
Yeah.
You know, that should be enough to bring me back and be like, life is good.
Yeah. It's really amazing kind of what hardship and what stress and worry can blind us to in that regard.
Yeah.
Like starting this episode and you being so stressed out and talking about how the week has been hell and you're anxious about finding a new home, and being now 45 minutes in and you saying you're so lucky to have what you have.
Yeah.
That's a huge mentality shift just in 45 minutes.
This is the work, guys, literally. Like, this shit, it works.
Yeah.
It literally works. And there's a reason why people are banging on about gratitude and, you know, just taking care of yourself on basic levels of like drinking water and eating healthy food and going outside and getting some fresh air and sunlight and a bit of exercise, like, because it works.
And if that stuff isn't working for you, then seeking professional help, because there could be a hormone imbalance, there could be some dysregulation that needs to be kind of readjusted, and that's okay.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that you're broken.
Yeah. That's something else I want to talk about, actually. Maybe we'll save it for another time. But using maybe like the way that we're working with things like antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, using like exhausting all options first, and then, you know, if someone can't even get themselves out of bed in the morning, asking them to go for a walk and cook a healthy meal is like, they're not going to get there, right? But implementing the medication to get you to a point where you can face just going for a walk and building those habits to then phase out the medication.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of studies that have been done. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, because for some reason this isn't something that is super heavily researched. I think because there's already been kind of a scientific method put in place with the medication that definitely works. But there's some level of research being done on holistic approaches to wellness and taking kind of the chemical imbalance and starting there and making adjustments, and then going and assessing all areas of a person's life in a very like dense and detailed way, and being able to restructure that and kind of then take away some of those additional supports that maybe aren't useful anymore, aren't necessary anymore. That doesn't mean that everybody who is medicated can go off their meds, but like there's definitely limits and adjustments that are made as people are kind of putting those structures in place where they're able to kind of build a routine that is sustainable for them. It's all about how we're approaching things, and I do think that it's changing for the better. I honestly believe that, and I honestly believe that there is a place for modern medicine in the world. Like, I don't, as much as I have transitioned onto, you know, a lot of Eastern medicine and Eastern concepts, if I break my leg, I'm going to the hospital. I'm not going to meditate over it. And sometimes, just some bath salts will take care of that.
And sometimes, like I'll take a couple of ibuprofen. Like, if I get really bad period cramps, or if you know, I very, very rarely get a headache, but if I do, and I've like drank water and ate a banana and moved around a bit and meditated and none of that's worked, and I need to get through my day, then I'm gonna take some pain medication. But I think it's the fact that we've become so reliant on it and have abused it. And to be fair, you know, a lot of that has come from just big pharma, like pushing for doctors to prescribe this stuff to people without really doing more research into that individual, you know, like at best they might prescribe therapy, which is great, but you know, if someone is not looking after themselves on so many different levels, then you know, it's not solving the root cause of the problem. And I think so many of us are holding on to trauma. I think so many of us are holding on to belief systems and narratives. And yeah, like I do think some people genetically are born with predispositions to certain disorders and diseases. But I also believe that doesn't mean that you then have to live like that. I truly believe that you can change yourself and overcome things that have been holding you back, potentially over lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation, which I do. You know, I do truly believe, because I've seen it, right? I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've experienced it myself.
Yeah.
And I know that I am just one person and I am just one experience, and everyone's journey is different. But I feel like we've got to stop telling people that there's nothing that can be done further than what is already being done. I feel that's so limiting, and I feel like we've advertently or inadvertently disempowered people for a really long time. And I think that's now starting to shift into showing people that they can. They can take an active role in their healing, and they have so much more power than they could have ever imagined to do that.
Yeah. And I do think that it needs to be a bit of a holistic approach as well, and that it's not just one thing is the answer. And this is going to sound wildly out of pocket, but here's my hot take for the episode. Have you seen Doctor Strange?
Yes.
You know that like scene where he goes and sees the woman who's the master of like all of the energy that he is working with.
Yeah.
And she's showing him all of these different charts from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Shows him like an X-ray scan, shows him a chakra chart, shows him like the human body and like the skeletal system, and he's like, I've seen all of this, and she's like, have you considered that you need all of it in order for it to work?
Yes.
I think about that so frequently.
Being like
and
how we work with people.
Yeah, and think
future.
that he, as a medical doctor, had taken, and I recognize as well, I'm just going to cut myself off. I know it's all like science fiction, and I know that this is a Marvel movie and that none of this is real, but it has a very important lesson, right? Because he's going about it as a medical doctor from a strict Western medicine perspective, and he can't fix himself, and nothing is working, and somebody offers him kind of all of these other ways of thinking, and he immediately shuts it down. His first reaction is, that's bullshit. Like, none of that's real. But what if it is? What if that's the thing, is that we're just not looking at it in a broader spectrum
picture,
and looking at it all as like one, as pieces to one big puzzle.
I know you say that, you know, like it's science fiction and it's not real and stuff, but I think a beautiful thing that Marvel has done, and, you know, sci-fi in general, but really Marvel in particular, has opened up so many people's perspectives as to what could be possible. Like, how many people knew what a multiverse was up until, you know, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And like now it's like this word that's thrown around and people are like playing around with this idea. And, you know, this is talked about in science, literally in science, about there being multiverses and about, you know, time being a concept that we experience and a construct, sorry. And all of this stuff that's put into Marvel movies actually gives us a visual representation of what that maybe looks like. And I think just having that spark in people's brains, and giving them ideas, you know, like, who knows how this will affect the next generation of physicists. And
well, really interestingly, science fiction as a genre is based so heavily in science and as a test for kind of what the modern world could kind of come up with. I definitely need to fact check this, but I read somewhere that space travel became possible because of a science fiction piece of literature, and that scientists had kind of utilized it to some extent, not fully obviously, but they'd taken elements of something that was science fiction in order to put it into reality so that we could go into space.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because, and this brings me back to manifestation, is that first there had to be a thought. There had to be an idea. Someone had to be creative enough in that beautiful human brain to think of something to then make it a reality. And even that person might not have been the person that made it a reality. It can happen hundreds of years later, but because of that one person that maybe then led on to this cascading effect, a scientist, you know, 100 years later was able to actually make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, right? Like, I genuinely believe, again, you know, this is a whole other kind of topic that I would love to go into deeply. But our minds and what we're capable of creating, I think we're only just, I'm going to say rediscovering, because I think we knew this a long time ago, and have maybe lost connection with that. But we are capable of bringing so much into reality. And when you realize that we have like that much power, but because it's not an instant gratification, which is the world that we live in now, it's all this like instant. If I don't see it right in front of me, then nah, you know, like I'm not going to put any validity in there. But who knows, like in 1,000 years' time, what we know now is the people that are there in 1,000 years are going to be looking back at us the same way that we look back at like the Tudors, you know, who didn't even have indoor plumbing. Like, so yeah, I'm super excited for what humanity is going to achieve, and I know there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but I genuinely believe that we're heading in the right direction. I do.
I have my own thoughts about humanity and where I think we're headed, but I will save that for another time. Right. I'll have my own soapbox moment in another episode.
Good. Well, I think that's a good place to call it for today before I go on any more crazy tangents.
Before I derail us and talk about the inevitable heat death of the universe.
But I want to say thank you to you.
Oh.
Thank you for being here with me, because I feel so much brighter just from being able to sit here and do this podcast with you. I'm really enjoying it. And thank you to all those who have supported us so far. We really appreciate your comments and messages. It really means the world to us. And we're glad you guys are having a good time. And as always, if there's any topics you'd like us to discuss, just drop a comment below or send one of us a message and let us know.
Yeah, or you can email us at livingyal@gmail.com.
I like to think of it as like living y'all.
Yeah, living
That's
y'all.
how I hear it in my head.
I'm a yaller as well. I'm from the West Virginia. Y'all country, so.
Yeah. So livingyall@gmail.com. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. We hope you have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.